All right. Hi, Josh. Thank you very much for taking the time to help us with this interview, and this feedback is immensely valuable. We can start with a quick introduction about your facility and go from there.
Okay. So I work for Keeney Logistics Services. We're a third-party fulfillment agent for a range of customers. The current customer we have in our facility has a product line that is very unique to our vertical. The products are expensive and definitely need to make sure that we are doing a good job of being good stewards of, number one, making sure that when we see products come in, if there's damage, if there's any type of deviation from temperature control or any type of customer requirement, that we definitely are making note of that. We're about 240,000 square foot facility, temperature controlled. Definitely got a lot of opportunity for deviations to occur. So we definitely utilize a product like LoadProof to monitor and manage some of the risks that we do experience. So can't go into a lot of detail into exactly what our product line is. Definitely want to respect my customers' requests. So if there's anything else you'd like me to add, I definitely can answer more about that.
Oh, great. No, I completely understood. So what was the problem you guys were trying to solve, right? What was the frustration and what that you were, so painful, with originally, what was the problem?
So there's two things that we were dealing with. One was shipper damage. So we were seeing prior to LoadProof instances where products would come in. We'd do the trailer inspection on the initial shipment. We'd identify damage on the product prior to our material handling equipment removing it from the trailers, and we didn't really have a defined process or a tool that would help us manage that. We were seeing where communication wasn't in place, identification wasn't in place, shipper damage was now making its way into the facility. At that point, that product is now warehouse damage. We're having to eat the cost for missing that. So that's one side of it. The second part of it is, and we don't see a lot of this. So when you look at our activity with LoadProof, it's kind of hit and miss. But was dealing with LTL shipment and outbound shipment. So there are instances where we want to make sure that the products that we load, we definitely have a record of what the condition was prior to leaving our facility. So we have a reference if we do get a claim and it's a verified claim, that we have the support and documentation to show the condition of the product left our facility. So those are the two main reasons. So shipper damage and then just loading damage.
Got it. So how did you guys hear about us? I mean, first time, I know it was through Trevor and among all people around, like, what made you jump and say, hey, I want this?
I definitely have a great relationship with Trevor and the Innovation Lab. The easiest thing for us to make the decision to utilize LoadProof is just having that peace of mind to be able to easily document items such as shipper damage or load damage. It only takes one or two times for when you see a potential inbound carrier to file a claim, or when we file a claim, it's hard to argue with photographs and documentation. So having something like LoadProof makes it really easy for us to have that peace of mind that when we do our inspection process, that we have an easy and retrievable record that allows us to feel confident that we followed our processes and procedures. And when we do file a claim, that we've got that documentation support, that there's not going to be really any pushback. Same thing for the outbound side. There's certain instances with certain LTL carriers, if we have shipments that go from our Tennessee location to California. Well, within an LTL life cycle, it's going to hit 4 or 5 different hubs. That's a lot of different handles where the condition's probably not going to look the same as when it left our facility. So we definitely want to make sure, we catch that. And in talking with Trevor, this was just an easy tool that the Innovation Lab, promoted to us. And definitely for the cost, it's definitely paid for itself 1,000 times over. So
great. I've seen so many end users in the distribution center. They think about, hey, all right, got to have it like this, and then finally something happens, and the tipping point. They hit the tipping point, and they're like, we got to buy this, right? So, what was that tipping point on your side? What that made you guys to say, oh, we got to have this, and you entered and bought it?
Well, one of the things that we're working through is our Kinko operating system, which really focuses on lean fundamentals. And with our product line here, it doesn't take a lot to incur a significant charge. And with us being a pass-through cost, it's our fiduciary responsibility to be good stewards for our customers. And with such a low-cost item, it was really a no-brainer to be able to implement a tool to be able to have at the point of use for anybody in our site that's a user to be able to have access to quickly document and make sure. I keep using that peace of mind phrase, but that's really what it is. It's us being good stewards of our customer's product to make sure that we're making the decisions that we need to in documenting where things are deviated from the process. Because we do not want them to incur any excess expenses that really could be caught if we're utilizing a quick and easy process like LoadProof. So.
Got it. While how easy was it to turn it on? I mean, all right, you guys decided, hey, we got to have LoadProof. And then how long did it take to, turn it on? And then obviously, right, there's something called change management. We see this all the time. And we, turn on a new tool, it takes people, sometimes you get a pushback. People take some time to get used to it. And then aha moment, oh God, I'm so glad I have these pictures now, right? How was that process?
So as with anything, like you mentioned, with change management, anytime you add something new, you can get some pushback. I think the goal that we tried to set is try to provide others to see the value in why you would want to utilize a tool like LoadProof. I think we've still got some gaps that we're working through to try to find the most ways that we can utilize the product. But it didn't take us very long here. I think there are a couple instances that come to my mind where our customers inquired about claims that have been filed. We quickly had documentation to negate the claim from the end user. So I think as soon as if you can provide an environment where people see the value and how easy it is to create an application like an app that any team member can use, if you make it really effortless and has a high amount of value, it definitely will sell itself. To say, for here, it probably took a month, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But I think there's definitely, I had a conversation this morning, there's definitely more instances where this program can be utilized. And that's one of the things that we're working through is trying to identify, how do we continually see value added areas where a program like this can be implemented in.
Got it. So do you guys have this running on the associates' mobile devices, or do you have dedicated mobile devices that are available in the deep to take pictures?
So what we do at our site is we have several users, and they're mainly in the shipping and receiving office. So that's going to be from the inbound side and then the outbound side. For our leadership team members, they have access to the app via their cell phone. But we also have an iPad mini at the site for shipping and receiving team members, along with returns team members that have access to utilize the program. So we really try to keep it in a really controlled environment. But we also definitely want to make sure from a lean perspective that people who need it can have access to that without having to wait for somebody to come and help them. for us here, our goal has always been to be able to make it so that team members can solve problems on their own and empower them to do that. So we're definitely trying to give them the right tools and give them access to it when they need it. So
great, fantastic. So where did you guys see the most value? Is it in the inbound side, or is it in the outbound side, or is it in general? Obviously, right, once something happens, then, as a leader, as a team, we spend a lot of time sitting and discussing it. How it happened? How do we make sure, it does not happen again? How do we, change it, incorporate checkpoints, control checks, so we catch it happening, right? We spend a lot of time. So that involves quite a bit of labor. Where do you guys see the most value? Is it inbound, outbound, or such labor, savings?
Definitely the inbound side. We don't see, when I work with the inventory control manager here, we don't see a lot of, verified claims for outbound damage. It's very, very minimal. We see more of it on the inbound side. So I would quickly, for me, the value's been on the inbound side versus the outbound side.
And what about labor savings? Was that a big deal, or wasn't a big deal?
So I think from a claim perspective, like I said, I can't go into any details. I definitely feel and can see where, in some of the verified claims that we've had, where we've been able to support shipments going out, it's definitely been a cost savings, or I'd say cost avoidance for our customer, because we have proof of the status of, when an item came in. Definitely making sure from an inbound perspective, you have to follow the process of not touching anything before you handle it, to make sure that there's no doubt. But yeah, definitely on the inbound side, there's been some cost avoidance.
Got it. Great. How was the transformation? How was life before LoadProof, and how is life after LoadProof, and what difference has that made in your environment, and how is you're sleeping better now? That impacted?
I definitely think it makes people's lives easier. I definitely know whenever you receive an email and you're being questioned about, a certain shipment, whether or not your team members followed the right process, it definitely lightens the mood when you can show that you've got proof to say, hey, this shipment came in just like this, and you got an easy picture to show. And the conversation kind of dies. Say, okay, well, thanks, we've got this, and then our customer goes back and can handle it on their end. So I don't think it takes very long, especially when it's you that's the one that's being asked about a shipment that you handled. So probably every instance is going to be different, but it's always nice to be able to not have to worry. Like I keep using that peace of mind. It's trying to utilize something to make your life easier, so you don't have to go back and explain. Because the one thing I like about photographs and documentation is within our business here with our customer, we may ship something out today and not receive a claim back for 6 months. So we, as human beings, our record retrieval is very difficult. So it's very nice to be able to go back and have a file for, oh yeah, here's this shipment here. Here's the photographs from it, and it's really not a conversation point anymore. It kind of just drops off.
That's great. Whenever there is an email that comes in, that's like, oh my God, what is this, right? Go through that. Inside, oh my God, what did we screw up, right? And then, now you have pictures. It's I'm just going to take the pictures. So it's so much better. Life is so much better. I mean, you don't have to go through that agitated feeling any longer, right? That's great.
For our site, we don't utilize it. We don't photograph every outbound shipment. We utilize it where we feel we need to utilize it. We're at the point now where we're trying to make sure that we're not overutilizing it, we're not underutilizing it, trying to make sure that we're on the same page in utilizing it where it's value added. So I definitely think there's always room for improvement. We had a conversation this morning in our top tier meeting, and just trying to look at, what examples do we have where there's areas maybe we're missing, and maybe we need to go back and we could utilize LoadProof for this or this, and maybe it's not specific to inbound and outbound. Maybe it's reverse logistics where we can utilize it. So we're always trying to make sure that we're maximizing a program's abilities, because it's really about making our team members' lives easier, and just taking care of our customer.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all it's all about. We work so hard, and we don't want people coming and telling us, "Oh my God, you did a bad job." So when you have that proof evidence, to show that, hey, we did a great job, just so much better. So how likely you guys are, you guys will recommend us, right? When using Load. And why should someone, let's say someone and someone is on the fence, why should they, start using Load now?
I think when you can talk with somebody and you can understand what their pain is. I go back to an example when we started going through our lean journey. There's a lot of different ways that you can perform in action. So the philosophy that I always try to take is here's a requirement that we're going to have to meet. Here's a couple ways that we can do that. So if somebody's on the fence, like for example with our 5S audit program, we easily could have went the route of filling out forms. I could have collected all those forms. I could have interpreted all the data on the forms. I could have entered all the information into a spreadsheet. I could have produced all the charts and graphs. But at the end of the day, if there's tools out there that can automate all that with a little bit of input from an individual, it's number one, going to make your life easier. Two, it's going to be more accurate. And three, just from a cost perspective, it's going to lower your cost. So if somebody's on the fence with LoadProof, absolutely, I'm going to promote it, because all the instances that we've seen where we've been questioned about inbound loads or outbound loads, where we have records of it, it's been very easy for us to produce feedback with little pushback. I know a lot of things that we see in our facility, our customer wants an immediate photograph that's outside of LoadProof. So there's certain things we don't use it for. But I think once you have to, the people who are using it have to see the why and the value. If you can look at your operation and understand that, to be a good steward of my customer, I need to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to identify waste, remove any process deviations. And if there's tools out there like LoadProof, then it's very easy to meet those goals.
Okay, great. And you guys, scenarios where every shipment is being photographed, and then scenarios where they're doing only certain, or maybe doing only for this. What was that thought process behind that? You decided to do it only on certain, instances, certain scenarios, maybe exceptions, not for every single pallet. How did you guys get there? The thought process behind that.
So you were cutting out just a little bit. Do you mind repeating that a little bit? I'm going to turn my phone up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what was the, thought process behind you guys said, hey, we are going to pick and choose the scenarios that we are going to photograph, right? I'm just curious, what was the thought process behind that, right? I mean, someone, and obviously we have other sites that are taking every picture of every pallet that's going out, right? So I'm just curious, is it anything tied to lean, or is it anything, tied to else that made you say, hey, all right, we're in these instances, things.
Well, one of the things that we look at is we look at historical data on, where are we seeing damage? If it's specifically with inbound, okay, is it certain carriers? Is it certain times of the day? Is it certain seasons? Same thing with outbound. Is it specific to LTL? Is it certain or specific to full truckload? So we definitely don't want to spend extra time taking excessive photographs if it's really not going to be identified as value added. So we worked internally to identify from a risk perspective, where are we seeing the most need and where are we going to get the most value out of that? So that's why in the beginning, when we're talking, it's going to be mostly on our inbound side, because that's where we see a lot of areas where we could easily be in a bind if we're not doing and following good documentation practices.
Got it.
Now down the road, now down the road, like I mentioned earlier, I think there's other areas where the program can be utilized, but I definitely think there's a line there where you can be excessive and start creating non-value added items and waste. But there's also, just being aware of, hey, where is this most needed? Because you definitely don't want to start adding waste into a process and photographing everything if you don't really need to do that. So it's all about that value, trying to identify where the value is going to be created. So
got it. Perfect. That makes sense. So the last question is, what was the ROI on this tool? And obviously there is some labor involved as well. What was the ROI? Would it be possible to provide a ballpark number, like per month or per year, something like that? If it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not something I can't share. I definitely, and there's reason for that. I mean, it's for the products that we store in the facility here, it's been requested by our customer just to not share that information. But the one thing that I can say is that the savings, and I call it cost avoidance, because it's really not savings, it's cost avoidance by us following good documentation and practices, is significantly higher than the amount of money we're spending to manage the process, if that makes sense. I definitely wish I could share more, but I think when you look at the cost for LoadProof per month, based on the user package that we have, you easily save the money from one shipment. I could say one shipment. I mean, has paid for probably the lifespan that we'll utilize it. So.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I think that's all I wanted for this video. So I'll go ahead and stop recording, and then we'll do the other one next.
Okay.